Hi, my name is Laura Joseph with Healing with Spirit, and this is part 2 of 3 videos where we discuss 3 lessons taught in 2019 and 3 things to know about what you need to know about navigating into the 2020 energies and what it all means. In video 1, we talked a little bit about the reflection and what 2019 taught us, and there were many, but we only focused on really 3. And in this video, we're going to discuss why spiritual bypassing our way through life will no longer work like an addictive drug moving forward. And video 3, it will discuss 3 things you should know about the 2020 energies moving forward and what it all means. So thank you for joining me. And again, my name is Laura, and this is video 2 of 3. And this is going to be talking about why spiritually bypassing our way through life will no longer work. Okay. So in this segment, I will elaborate more on spiritual bypassing because I'm aware that many of us here either do not know what that is, what spiritual bypassing is, or have a misconception of what it is. So I will address what is spiritually bypassing, examples of what spiritual bypassing looks like, and when do we engage spiritual bypass. So what is spiritual bypassing? So let's just go Wikipedia 101 so there's no debates, okay? Let's just make it easy. Wikipedia says that the spiritual bypassing is the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. So I also see it as an equal opportunity defense mechanism. It also manifests in many ways, often without even being acknowledged. A lot of times we don't even realize that we're doing it. Aspects of spiritual bypassing can include things like an exaggerated form of detachment, emotional numbing and repressing, overemphasis on the positive, anger phobia, trying to avoid anger and worry and all those things to an extreme, blind or overly tolerant compassion, weak or too porous boundaries, debilitating judgment about one's own negativity or the shadow elements, devaluation of the personal relative to the spiritual, and delusions of having arrived at a higher level of being. Okay, so spiritual bypassing actually shields us from our own inner truth. It also disconnects us from our feelings, or it also can amplify, like the feelings can kind of go so far awry that we kind of avoid them. Okay, so this actually helps us avoid that bigger picture of what sometimes our emotions are trying to show us. If we can see our emotions like a GPS, it's like a guidance tool to guide us that, it's not something to be afraid of. So spiritually bypassing happens when we do not accept ourselves, that part of ourselves, that unowned part of the self that just gets shoved underneath the carpet and into that shadow realm. It is more about checking out than it is about checking in within ourselves. And the difference is so subtle that usually we don't even realize that we're doing it. So it could be something as simple as that we're grasping versus the gratitude, we're arriving versus just being, we are just avoiding versus just accepting. Okay, there are fine lines and gray areas. So it's important to kind of be very tapped in. And again, as the video 1, I talk about listening to that wisdom with the body, will really guide you into deciphering if you are doing this or not. In the spiritual practice, so when we're talking about spiritual practices, we also can be in service of repression. So there's that, everything is so love and light and nothing is wrong and it's blah, blah, blah. That is avoiding and repressing anything negative. And that usually happens because we cannot even tolerate what we're feeling, or that thing that we shouldn't be experiencing what we're feeling. Like we kind of, either way, it's like we shouldn't be experiencing this, or we shouldn't be feeling this, or we don't want to. All right. So when do we actually engage in spiritual bypassing? So it happens, I think majority of us don't even realize we're doing it, to be honest with you. We really don't. But I think when we build that awareness piece, a lot of the things that I mentioned in video one, building in some of that awareness piece will really help you understand how to locate and if you are spiritually bypassing. But when we are in actual denial of what we call like a fatal flaw that is glaringly obvious, or when we go deep into spiritual practices or philosophies, but yet we treat people really poorly, okay? We engage in spiritual bypassing when we lie to ourselves about our desires and or our shadows. We repress them versus acknowledge them and work with them. So some examples I should say of spiritual bypassing include like when we break up with a partner and we just trash the crap out of them without really acknowledging and honoring what was shared. Okay, maybe some of the lessons that was given to you. And another one would be that we practice and say we're very spiritual or religious, but yet we treat a cashier like a servant. Those who go to church on Sundays that look good, present well, yet they go home and they beat their wives or they make excuses for priests that sexually assault children. Okay, those are all examples of spiritually bypassing. So I hope this portion of the video series helped you see more clearly about some of the things around spiritual bypassing that can sometimes seem confusing. In video 3, we're going to go more into why this is not the way to go and why we're not going to be able to avoid going down here anymore. But when we can face that aspect of ourselves, be gentle with yourself when we're doing it and be open-minded, because when triggers and other things that we're trying to avoid, when we face them, we actually unsurface not just the things we're trying to avoid, but we unearth all the treasures that we've also been harboring and hiding, and we can release those as well and let those flourish. So again, I thank you for being a part of this journey, this grand experiment that we call life, and supporting my journey and supporting my work. So this completes video 2. Video 1, as I mentioned, talks about my reflections in the 2019 and the three lessons that we learned in 2019. Video 3 will go into the 3 things to know about 2020 energies moving forward and what it all means. So I thank you for sharing this day with me, and please leave your feedback in the comments below. Have a great day.